If you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles.
Alright, let's go to the Ordnance tab now. Ordnance, you have the anti-tank unit, anti-tank guns 37 millimeters. They are anti-heavy armor, defensive, anti-light armor, and partial stealth. So anti-tank guns are defensive units for countering attacks by armored vehicles. They are cheap and fast to produce, but they should avoid fights against unarmored targets. With their stealth characteristics, they can ambush approaching tanks. And that's what you want. It is an ambushing unit. Obviously, you don't want to use it against unarmored targets because, well, militia, infantry, mechanized infantry, motorized infantry, they are anti-unarmored units, and yes, an anti-tank is an unarmored unit. You can see they're very weak against unarmored units, so avoid this at all cost. What you want is to use them on defense against heavy armor and light armor. They do amazingly. They are stealth in forest and in urban terrain. Do you remember what I said about the militia? They're also slow, they're also stealth in forest and urban, and they get a terrain bonus in forest and urban. So yes, perfect defense for home territory is what? Anti-tank guns together with militia. You've got it! Alright, you are learning, very good. They are very cheap to produce, they have a very small upkeep, they get 50% bonus in the forests and 25% bonus in urban terrain. So if you ambush a heavy armored unit like a medium tank in a forest, then you're not gonna deal 5 damage, you're gonna deal 7.5. That's perfect. Also, if you stack these babies with the militia are going to protect your anti-tank guns against unarmored units. That is what you want. If you want more examples of which units you should stack together with which, click on the link here below and you will get an answer to all of your questions. Alright, next up, artillery, one of my favorite units, because they deal damage and they don't take damage because yes, it is a ranged unit. They have ranged attack, anti-heavy armor, and they are offensive. Artillery is an offensive unit that is most effective against armored targets and buildings. It can bombard enemies from a safe distance without taking damage, and that is why they are so good and should be placed behind other fighting units. You should always stack your infantry together with melee units like anti-tanks, like infantry for example, to keep your artillery safe. They deal 2.7 damage against heavy armor, they deal 2 damage versus light armor, but if you have 10 artillery in a stack, they deal 27 hit points in one shot, bam! And you take no damage at all yourself. They are amazing, honestly. Just be careful, the speed 27, okay? They are slow, be advised, because if you're in enemy terrain, they move at half speed, so that's 13.5. I speak from experience. If you're deep in enemy terrain and you need to force march out, you're gonna get caught, so protect them well. And you can see, for example, that in mountains they only move at 14 instead of 27, so be aware of this. Alright, then we've got SP artillery, in other words, self-propelled artillery. Those here, they are tier 2 units, so be careful. Ordnance Foundry level 2 is advised. They deal ranged attack, they are anti-heavy armor and offensive. Self-propelled artillery is an offensive unit that is most effective against armored targets and buildings. Same as artillery. It combines armor and speed. They're much faster, with the ability to bombard enemies from a safe distance, and is best used to travel alongside other motorized units. Indeed, other motorized units like tank destroyers, mechanized infantry for example, or medium tanks, motorized infantry, that kind of stuff. They deal 5.8 8 damage against heavy armor, and they also can hold their own against light armor. Even against unarmored units, they are not that bad at all. They are expensive, especially on goods. They cost 1.8 thousand. So if you want to go heavy on the SP artillery, remember to upgrade your industry in your goods city. You can see speed in plains 55, hills 33, even in the mountains 22. Those babies, they are fast. Urban terrain 44. Be aware, they are fast. Don't let you get caught by these babies. Then next up is anti-air. Anti-air, of course, they are versus aircraft, right? So they are anti-air and defensive. Anti-air is a cheap defensive unit which protects provinces and units from air attacks. It damages every airplane which attacks its position. So they can't attack a plane, they only defend when get attacked. That's a very important fact. Especially without air superiority, anti-air units are essential to main control of the battlefield. Actually, you should always have anti-air units in no matter what stack you have. Even if you have air dominance with interceptors, it doesn't matter, because if you're asleep, you cannot protect your units. Simple as that. Anti-air will always do their job. They're very good against airplanes on defense, but nonetheless they can hold their own against heavy armor. They cost about the same as artillery or anti-tanks in that matter. They come cheap. They have the same speed like anti-tank and artillery, so those three babies, they stack perfectly together. They get a 50% bonus in the hills and in urban terrain, and they should always get stacked in no matter what stack. And then finally, for the ordnance branch, we have self-propelled anti-air, and you already guessed it, it's an anti-air unit but a faster version. Anti-air defensive. Self-propelled anti-air is a defensive unit that combines armor and speed with the ability to protect troops from air attacks. It is best used to escort faster units because, unlike normal anti-air, it won't slow down the entire army. Indeed, so if you want to protect those mechanized infantry, those tank destroyers, motorized infantry, and medium tanks, this is what you want. They deal 9.6 damage against airplanes. It's amazing. It is a lot. They do very well against light armored units as well, so be aware. They have the same speed like self-propelled artillery. So also these babies, they stack perfectly together to protect the self-propelled artillery against air attack. They move 55% speed. Well, I'm not gonna repeat it, you already know it. There we go. That was it for Ordnance Branch. Don't forget also SP Anti-Air. They're a tier 2 unit, so please Ordnance Foundry level 2 if you don't want to get a penalty.